Hi, good day. Hello students, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe my TikTok PH. Thank you so much.
Hello students, happy learning. So with that, our objectives of the lesson: first, describe the principal roots of a real number. Second, classify the principal roots whether they are rational or irrational number. And last, determine between what two consecutive integers the principal root of a number lie. So ito po yung kailangan natin matutunan or ma-master this way. So with that, there are two kinds of real numbers. So as we recall the last meeting that we have rational number and irrational number. Ano po yung pagkakaiba ng dalawang ito? So when we say rational number, this is simply a real number that can be written as a ratio. Ibig sabihin, pwede siyang isulat as fraction, or that is a ratio of two integers. And also, written in decimal form is either terminating, yun yung may katapusan, no? Or repeating same pattern of numbers. Ibig sabihin niyan, may limit po siya yung kanyang decimal. So with that, dito naman tayo sa kanyang opposite, no? We call this irrational. Ito naman yung number that cannot be written as a ratio or fraction of two integers. So also written as decimals are non-terminating. Okay, ibig sabihin na hindi po siya natatapos. Okay, continuous po yung values niya, never end, and non-repeating. Okay, paiba-iba yung kanyang digit, no? Pero continuous po siya. So we have to recall this definition of rational and irrational to be able to classify our discussion. So with that, when we say real numbers, di ba, pag sinabi natin real number, ano nga ba yung real number? So this is simply a number that can be represented on a number line or infinite decimal expansion. Kasi meron din tayong tinatawag na imaginary number. Kung merong real numbers, meron din tayong imaginary number. So, and with that, ito yung number line natin. Kaya meron tayong number line or number system. Or this is number line, no? So dito plinaplat po natin yung mga number. So meron tayong mga decimal, may fraction, may mga naka-square root, may pi, okay, may whole number, whether positive or negative. So with that, i-identify na natin, no, based sa definition, di ba, alam natin ang rational at yung irrational. Okay, so let's have negative 7.5. Saan ba ito? Rational or irrational? So that is rational siya. How about negative 5? That is also rational number. And negative 7/3, also rational number. What about 0? Okay, di ba? Whole number po siya. That is rational. What about the square root of 2? That is irrational. And what about the pi? Take note, the approximate value of this is 3.1460. Okay, so that is irrational. And we have 8. This is rational number. So kailangan lang matandaan natin yung definition ng bawat isa sa rational at yung irrational. Okay, so with that, so meron tayong tinatawag na radical, no? Or that is a parts of radical. So kung makikita natin ito, pag binasa ko to, nth root of A. Okay, so kailangan alam natin anong tawag sa symbol na to. We call this radical sign. Or tinatawag din siyang radical na lang, no? Okay, understood, this is the symbol for that. Ano naman yung tawag doon sa number or expression na nasa loob ng radical sign? We call this radicand. And what about the, ayan yun, under the radical sign is the radicand. And eto namang number na nandito sa unahan ng ating radical sign pero nandito siya, hindi pwede dito. Kasi kung nandito yan, magiging coefficient. Kaya nandito siya, hindi siya coefficient. Ang tawag po doon ay tinatawag natin siyang index. Okay, or that is the root. Ibig sabihin yan, the index defines the root in index to be taken. Ibig sabihin, pang ilang root ba ang iyong kukunin? Kaya nga meron tayong square root, ibig sabihin ang index nun ay 2. Kapag cube root, 3 ang kanyang index. Kapag fourth root, 4 ang kanyang index, etc. And so on and so forth. Meaning to say, doon malalaman kung pang ilang root ang kukunin mo using the index of this radical. Okay, so with that, meron tayong tinatawag na principal square root. So I have here the symbol. So meron tayong positive square root, negative square root, and the positive and negative square root. Ito po yung symbol niya. And with that, the example 1, I have here square root of 9. Kapag kinuha po natin yung ating square root ng 9, that is equal to 3. But take note ang index po ng square root of 9 is 2. Kapag 2 kasi ang kanyang index, hindi na po natin sinusulat dito, di ba? So nakasimplified na siya. Understood, merong 2 dyan. Okay? So ibig sabihin lamang, tandaan natin na merong 2 dyan kapag ang ating index ay 2. Okay, how about this negative square root? So meaning to say, put negative sign in front of the radical symbol and get the square root of 9. Since may negative dyan, kaya magiging negative 3 yung square root niya. Okay, and what about this? The positive and negative, pagsasamahin mo lang, no? Ibig sabihin nito, pag kinuha mo or pag nilabas mo yung square root of 9, so lagi siyang dalawa. Ano yung dalawang square root? Isang positive at isang negative. Okay, example number 2, I have here square root of 64. Okay, the square root of this is simply 8. And the negative square root of 64, that is negative. Bakit siya naging negative? Kasi meron pong negative sa harapan. Di ba? I-multiply natin. Kaya square root of 64, 8 yun. Since may negative, kaya i-multiply. Kaya becomes negative. And you get the positive and negative square root. Therefore, this is positive negative 8. So meaning to say, pag-uusapan natin ngayon ang principal square root. When we say principal square root of a number, is a number or a square root that is represented by this symbol, yung square root natin. Kapag may negative naman, that is negative square root. Meaning to say, the symbol is used to represent both square roots. So kapag sinabing principal square root, tumutukoy po ito sa laging positive. Okay, kapag ang tanong, what are the square roots? There are 2 answers, one positive and negative. Pag tinanong ko, what is the principal root? Iisa lang yun yung positive. Okay, ito yung nakuha natin kanina, di ba? Positive, negative square root of 9, that is equal to positive, negative 3. Okay, so kapag pinakita natin yan, bakit positive 9 yung ating radicand, di ba? Yung radicand natin, yung nasa loob ni radical symbol. So meaning to say, laging dalawa ang kanyang square root. Isang negative at isang positive. Ipapakita natin ngayon, di ba, kapag minultiply natin yung 3 times 3, or you can write as 3 square. Kaya nga, that is equal to 9. Kapag pinakita naman natin yung negative 3 times negative 3, you can write as negative 3 square. Kaya kung mapapansin natin, di ba, parehas po silang 9. Kaya nga, ibig sabihin niyan, lagi pong dalawa ang square root ng ating radicand. One positive and one negative. Kaya nga, therefore, 3 is the principal root of the perfect square. Okay, so the principal root is simply the positive square root of a number. The principal root may be rational or irrational. Dapat alam natin yung ibig sabihin ng mga terms na to. And ano nga ba yung ibig sabihin ng perfect square? Okay, pag sinabi natin perfect square, ito po yung number na kapag minultiply mo sa sarili niya, yung product po nun ay tinatawag nating perfect square. Kaya nga, whose positive square root is a whole number. Okay, so well, we are talking about the perfect squares. No, marami tayong perfect square, but at least you have to memorize 1 to 20 para madali na lang tayo mag-solve. So, ibig sabihin dito, if you get the square of 1, kaya 1 times 1 or 1 raised to 2, same lang yon, that is 1. Okay. And 1 raised to 2, that is 4. Meaning to say, 3 square, that is 9. Lahat po na naka-red dyan, tinatawag natin perfect square. And dito naman 4 square, that's 16. Ito ay 25, that is 36, that is 49. Ito naman ay 64, that is 15 square, that is 2 to 5. That is 9 squared, 81. This is 16 squared, that is 256. 10 squared, okay, that is 100. 17 squared, that is 289. 11 squared, that is 121. 18 squared, that is 324. So 12 squared, that is 144. 19 squared, that is 361. And that is 13 square, that is equal to 169. 20 square, that is 400. We have 40 square, 196. And 21 square, that is 441. So, kailangan ma-memorize po natin ito. This will help you how to factor out kapag dating nyo ng grade 8 and grade 9, especially the higher math. Okay, so with that, using these perfect squares, so magagamit na natin siya kung paano malaman yung kanyang square root, specifically the perfect squares. Pag nakita natin yung perfect squares na yan, alam natin yung kanyang corresponding principal square root. We are talking about the positive, no, yung root. So with that, kukunin na natin ngayon, or we are going to classify the principal square root, whether it is a rational or irrational number. Let's say square root of 2. Okay, di ba? Paano natin malalaman kung rational or irrational? Tignan natin, di ba? Ang 2 ba na radicand or yung 2 na nasa loob sa radical symbol, kasama ba siya doon sa nilista natin kanina na perfect square? No, di ba? So, ibig sabihin niyan, that is irrational. Ganun lang siya. You can use the definition. Kapag in-square root mo ang 2, ang value niya is 1.4142 and so on and so forth. Continue siya, never ending. So, therefore, that is irrational. Okay, what about this? Square root of 49. So, that is 7. Di ba? Nasa perfect square siya. Yung ating radicand. So, rational. Number 3, that is square root of 12. That is 3.4641. Or, di ba yung 12, yung radicand natin, wala siya doon sa listahan ng perfect square. So, alam mo na agad na irrational yon. And of course, 121, the square root of that is 11 kasi perfect po siya. Kaya nga siya irrational. Number 5, we have the square root of 9 over 25. Paano kung fraction na siya? Ang titignan mo lang dyan, kailangan yung numerator at denominator parehas po dapat na perfect square para masabi natin rational. Kapag meron dyan isa na hindi siya perfect, hindi na siya rational or we call that irrational. So therefore, this is rational because kapag nilabas natin square root ni 9, 3 yun. Same with 25, kaya 5 yun, 3, 5. Pag kinonvert mo sa decimal yan, magiging finite po siya. Okay? And we have this number 6, square root of 3/4. Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, di ba? Yung 3 ba sa numerator ay perfect? No. Okay, so ibig sabihin niyan, merong isa na hindi perfect. Alam mo na agad na siya ay irrational. Okay, so kapag kinuha mo yung square root ni 3, 1.732 and so on and so forth, no, continuous siya, never ending. Okay, so kahit perfect yung isa dyan, hindi pa rin siya magsasatisfy doon sa definition natin as rational. Kaya irrational po siya. Okay, so with that, na square root of 1 over 4. Okay, kung titingnan natin yung 1 ba ay nasa perfect square list? Yes. How about 4? Yes. Both are perfect square. Kaya nga siya, 1/2 kapag nilabas natin yung square root nila, and that is 0.5. Kaya nga siya rational number. Okay, so with that, we are going to simplify the radical expressions. Let's have negative square root of 64. Kapag nilabas natin yung square root ni 64, 8 yon, di ba? Since may negative sa labas ng radical sign, i-multiply natin. Kaya nga, the simplified is negative 8. How about the square root of 196? Remember, this is a perfect square. Kaya 14 po siya. Always remember, that is perfect. And what about this negative square root of 0.0169? Kung titignan natin, di ba, yung nasa radicand natin, yung 0.169. Okay, this is a perfect. Okay, but if this is decimal, magiging decimal din ang ating square root. Kaya nga, that is negative 0.13. May negative kasi doon sa unahan ni radical sign, kaya you have to copy. Or meaning to say, minultiply siya, kaya naging negative 0.13. And for number 4, we have to get the square root of 6.25. As you can see, perfect pa rin po siya. Nagkaroon lang ng decimal. Kaya nga nag-move siya, no? Meaning to say, the square root of this is 2.5. And we have number 5, the square root of 4 over 9. That's simply you are going to determine kung both ba ng denominator and numerator is perfect. If not, syempre irrational yon. So since they are both perfect, kaya nga square root natin, that is 2 and 2/3. Therefore, we have this, another number 6, negative square root of 64 over 16. Diba? Parehas po silang perfect. Kaya nga pag in-square root mo 64, that will become 8. How about 16? The square root is 4. Since may negative, you have to copy. But take note, this is fraction. You can lowest term. What is 8 divided by 4? That is equal to negative 2. Bakit negative 2? Kasi meron siyang negative sign. Okay, so with that, we are going to simplify the radical expression. We have this square root of 25 plus square root of 100. The first thing that you're going to do is ilalabas natin yung kanilang square root. So, di ba? Paano malalaman? Dapat ma-memorize natin. No? Kung hindi man, dapat alam natin yung listahan. So we have to get the square root of 25, that is 5, and also the square root of 100 is 10. Therefore, what is 5 plus 10? That is equal to 50. And also number 8, we have the square root of 225 minus square root of 289. If you're going to get the square root of 225, that is equal to 15 together with the square root of 289, that is 17. Since minus yan, you have to subtract. Remember that that is keep change sa rules ng subtraction of integers. Kaya nga, that is equal to negative 2. Mas malaki yung sinubtract natin. And we have number 9, square root of 4 plus square root of 81 minus square root of 49. If there are 2 or more expression, you have to get first the square root before you add. So meaning to say, the square root of 4 here is negative 2 kasi nga may negative 2 sa negative sa labas. Kaya multiply becomes negative. And the square root of 81, that is equal to 9. The square root of 49, that is 7. You have to perform from left to right, no? Since para sila, I mean, same lang yung pantay, di ba, sa PEMDAS? Addition, subtraction is the same. Kaya nga, negative 2 plus 9 minus 7, that is equal to 0. Okay? Next, we have number 10. Paano naman kung fraction na tayo? Okay. So the first thing that you're going to do is you have to get the square root first. What is the square root of 9? That is equal to 3. How about 25? That is equal to 5. Pag nilabas natin, di ba, kailangan nawawala yung kanilang radical sign. And what is the square root of 1? That is 1. Square root of 64, that is 8. Since minus 2, you have to copy the sign. But take note, fraction to fraction na to. What are you going to do? I-recall natin yung last meeting lesson natin. Diba? This is subtraction of rational numbers. Diba? So we need to say get the LCD. Gagawin natin silang similar fraction or equivalent fraction. How are we going to do that? Just simply multiply the LCD. What is 5 times 8? That is equal to 40. Then what are you going to do with this? Okay, you have to multiply. What is 3 times 8? That is equal to 24. Also, 5 times 1, that is equal to 5. Since nagawa na natin silang similar fraction or equivalent fraction, we can now simply subtract. What is 24 minus 5? That is equal to 19 over 40. Hindi na po pwede i-lowest term kasi wala na silang common. So with that, all principal roots are rational number. Okay? Tandaan natin yan. How about this simplify the radical expression? Paano naman kung magsisimplify tayo na irrational? Okay. So this time, meron tayong gagamitin na method, no? For example, I have here square root of 8. The first thing that you are going to do is you have to factor out. What does it mean? Ibig sabihin, mag-iisip po tayo ng dalawang number na kung saan yung isang number po natin ay perfect square dapat siya at yung isang factor natin ay hindi perfect. Okay? So, ano yung dalawang numbers na pwede natin i-multiply na 8 ang product, pero yung isa doon ay perfect. So, that is equal to square root of 4 times square root of 2. In-apply po yung product rule dyan, pinactor out. Okay, so meaning to say, kung sino yung perfect dyan, ilalabas natin yung kanyang square root. So, ano yung square root ni 4? Di ba? That is the perfect. Ito yung hindi perfect. So meaning to say the square root of 4 is equal to 2. Take note, pag nilabas natin yung square root niya, wala na po yung radical sign. Okay, nire-remove natin. Yung square root of 2, meron ba siyang square root? Okay, so since hindi po ito perfect, you have to copy as is. Okay, next we have number 2, square root of 20. You have to think two numbers that when you multiply, babalik po siya sa 20. Pero yung isa doon dapat ay perfect. So we have this factors, square root of 4 times square root of 5. So meaning to say, the square root of 4, ang kanyang square root ay 2. Since walang square root si 5, ikakopy mo lang siya. So meaning to say, this is now the answer. Okay, and we have number 3, square root of 32. Okay, so ang pwede po dito ay 4 times 8. Pwede yon. Pero kailangan, you have to think higher. Yung mas malaki na kanyang factor or yung perfect na factor, no? So meaning to say, we have to use the 16 or square root of 16 times square root of 2. Kasi kung gagamit ka ng square root of 4 times 8, pwede naman yun. But magdadalawang step ka pa doon. Ito kasi one step na lang siya before the answer. So meaning to say, what is the square root of 16? Di ba ilalabas natin yan? That will become 4. And since wala pong square root si 2, you have to copy as is. Okay, next number 4. How about negative square root of 75? You have to think two factors. So that is equal to a negative square root of 25 times square root of 3. Okay, remember, kung may negative yan sa unahan ni radical sign, ikakopy po natin. So meaning to say, since ang 25 na to ay perfect, ilalabas natin yung square root niya. Kaya nga, negative 5 na siya. Bakit may negative? Kasi di ba, may negative kung minultiply yung 5 times negative. Kaya becomes negative. Since wala na itong square root si 3, you have to copy as is. So meaning to say, yan na po yung answer natin or simplified. They are all irrational. Okay. Kapag kinonvert po natin itong mga sagot natin sa decimal, they are never ending. Meaning to say, continuous po yung kanyang decimal without end. Okay, so with that, between which two consecutive integers does the square root lie? Ibig sabihin nito, kukunin natin dito, saan ba natin makikita itong square root given natin, no? Saan sa pagitan ng aling magkasunod na integers. So kailangan dito, no, ma-memorize natin yung perfect square at yung kanilang square root. Or kung hindi man, kailangan maintindihan natin. So let's have square root of 12. Kung titignan natin yung square root of 12, di ba? Saan makikita to? Ibig sabihin nito, pagitan po siya ng square root of 9 tsaka square root of 16. Therefore, ang tanong dyan, saang integers na magkasunod makikita yung square root of 12? The answer here is 3 and 4. Bakit siya 3 and 4? Okay? Kapag kinonvert natin yung square root of 12, the value now is 3.46. Ibig sabihin, makikita po siya sa pagitan ng 3 tsaka 4. Okay? Next, we have the square root of 30. Saan makikita yung square root of 30? Sa pagitan siya ng aling magkasunod na integers. Okay? Kung makikita natin, di ba, square root of 30. Nandito siya sa pagitan ng square root of 25 at square root of 36. Ibig sabihin, the answer here is 5 and 6. Ito yon. Okay, therefore, kapag kinonvert natin square root of 30, that is 5.48. Naka-approximate siya, no? Naka-round off sa nearest hundreds. Okay, so therefore, that is now the answer. And what about this? Square root of 75. So meaning to say, tignan natin sa ating table. So we have identified this is square root of 75. Ibig sabihin yan, nandito siya sa pagitan ng square root of 64 tsaka square root of 81. Ano yung magkasunod na yon? That is 8 tsaka 9. Kaya that is the answer. Kapag kinonvert natin square root of 75, that is 8.66. So kaya nandito siya sa pagitan na yan na integers. So we have number 4, that is square root of 90. Saan makikita yung square root of 90? That is between 9 and 10. Diba? Kung makikita natin, square root of 90, nandito siya sa pagitan ng square root of 81 tsaka square root of 100. Kaya ito yon, 9 and 10 ang answer natin. If you convert this to decimal, that is 9.49. And last one, we have this square root of 150. Kapag tinignan po natin sa table natin yan, saan makikita yung square root of 50? Di ba nandito yan? So we have this one, square root of 144 tsaka square root of 169. Ibig sabihin yan, pagitan siya ng 12 tsaka 30 na integers. So, and if you convert this to decimal, that is 12.25. So, ganun lang kung paano tayo mag-identify ng magkasunod na integers kung saan nakalay po or makikita yung ating given square root number. Okay, so with that, so let's check your understanding. Question 1, which of the following is not a rational number? Okay, so ano kayang sagot natin? Is it A, B, C, or D? The answer here is letter A, square root of 5. Next, number 2, which of the perfect squares has a principal root of 16? Is it A, square root of 144, B, square root of 256, C, square root of 289, or D, square root of 225? The answer here is letter B, square root of 256. Next, question 3. The square root of 115 is between which of the following two consecutive integers? Is it A, 9 and 10, B, 11 and 12, C, 10 and 11, or D, 12 and 13? The answer here is letter C, 10 and 11. Okay, next, question 4. What is the simplified of square root of 48? Is it A, 2 square root of 3, B, 3 square root of 4, C, 3 square root of 2, or D, 4 square root of 3? The answer here is letter C, letter D, sorry, 4 square root of 3. Meaning to say, you learn a lot from this lesson. So I hope you learned something, and we'll see you